second canto on the way of fate and the problem of pain. As I mentioned, these are questions which have perplexed thinking minds ever since man began to think, and different interpretations, solutions have been offered, but the problems continue to be posed. And the first one is the question of fate. Fate, destiny, is, to put it broadly, something that is inevitable, something that you cannot escape, and what is fixed for you. If this position is accepted, another question arises, then what's the meaning of life? If life is only to work out destiny, fate, there is no freedom, there is no free will. Life becomes a mechanical operation. But who started this fate? From where is this fate imposed upon the human being? And is it true that fate is so rigid, inelastic? On the answer we give to these questions depends the quality of our life and the attitude that we have to life and death. As things go in philosophical thinking, fate is not what is imposed upon you by an external agency, call it God, call it nature. It is not. It is an accumulated result of your own workings. Workings does not mean only physical activities, but activity of the mind, thinking, the vibrations that you emanate from the mind, the emotions that you generate, the vital impulses that you put out, and last, the concrete physical activity that you do. Now all these have a reaction. Every action has a reaction. And an action in this context is a putting out of energies, thought energies, emotional energies, life energies, physical energies. You put them out, and every vibration, every movement that goes from you has a reactive movement. Action evokes reaction. And the accumulated result of these reactions forms a kind of concrete entity in your journey of life. And that is called fate. So, to use Sri Aurobindo's words, fate is the child of past energies. You do not know what energies have produced the present fate. But religions have always recommended, enjoined supplication to higher powers, bribing them with virtuous deeds, what are called virtuous deeds, sacrifices, charities, to turn the divine will to mitigate your karma, and thereby hope to escape some of the more rigorous reactions. In any case, fate is taken as something hard. There are others who contest this position and say this is all a doctrine of pessimism. It is a means to escape one's responsibility. One has a freedom of will to decide what one will do and what will not do. It is not incumbent on man to be a creature of circumstances. He can exert himself, assert himself, and even if there are reactions, well, they can be obviated. So this, in broad lines, is the debate between free will and determinism, what is called determinism. Now, whether the determinism is as a result of your own actions or the capricious will of some God in heaven, or a mechanical imposition from nature, the result is man becomes a creature. He has no escape. Sri Aurobindo and Mother have met the problem very squarely. What they say is this: there is not one destiny. Destiny is there. The result of our past action is there. But there are layers of destiny, grades of destiny. The destiny at the material level, physical level, is pretty hard. But as you ascend the stairs of consciousness, the operation of destiny becomes more plastic, amenable to change. It is freest in the level of the mind, and still more free at the level of the soul. So, by changing the level of our consciousness, by rising in the scale of life, it is possible to rise above the operation of fate to that extent. Because in these matters, There is really no question of sin and virtue. These are man-made values to humanize the animal in man. There is no such thing as sin except ignorance, except separativity from God Himself, God in others, God in the world. And no virtue except what you do that takes you nearer God. That's the only standard. So man has that initiative. If I have done many things which are stigmatized as wrong, well, I can negate that reaction, results of the reaction, what is called karma, by doing the opposite deeds, by forging an opposite karma. That's one. Second is by changing the level of my life, rising above it, and the karma of the physical plane no more operates on me. That is the secret of the ancient Indian perception, that once a man, man means a human, takes to spiritual life in earnest, they say renounce his life, renounce his material responsibilities and takes to God. Well, the horoscope does not apply to that person, because he moves away from the scene of the past karma. So, karma is, fate is an elastic proposition. You can be subject to it. You can rise above it. And this rising above can be by your own effort, or by grace, or by the conjoint action, which is normally the feature of grace and human effort working together. To that extent, even then, there are three types of karma. Karma is the operation of destiny. The mechanism of karma is the machinery through which destiny fulfills itself, or fate fulfills itself. There is, what I do today need not and does not yield its results immediately. It waits, it gathers, it may fructify some years later, it may fructify in some other birth. We do not know. It is only in a place like here, where Sri Aurobindo and Mother have established a rapidly moving evolutionary force, that you see, if you observe, you will see that every karma that you do bears fruit pretty immediately. You do not have to wait for other births. But normally in the world, that is not the position. You wait. So, once we accept karma and destiny, rebirth is inevitable, is a corollary. It is not that what I do now, I am going to reap in my next birth. Each time the soul comes to birth, takes the human body, it decides in the psychic world where it rests. When it is on the threshold of assuming a new adventure, what part of the past karma I am going to work out now? It may be in the previous birth, it may be in some earlier birth, and that comes It is called prarabdha karma, that karma which has started effectuating itself when it comes to birth. But the accumulated karma, the sanchita karma, is there waiting to be exhausted. So both these two types of karma, the one which has started fructifying itself in the present birth, and that part of it which is accumulated waiting to be exhausted in other births, they can be negotiated, modified, checkmated by intelligent human manipulation aided by the higher grace. But there is what is called an ineluctable karma, that part of the karma which cannot be surmounted, which cannot be offset. And even the grace of God will not help there, because as Sri Aurobindo says, God will not break his law. He may change it, but he won't break. So the ineluctable karma has to be gone through, and that ineluctable karma is where the soul is involved. You betray the soul. You betray the soul of somebody else. You are treacherous. You are treacherous to your guru. Now there is a breach of trust, a willful criminal act harming the soul of another, including the soul of oneself, like suicide. Suicide, atmahanaha, is considered to be the most heinous crime against God. And that has to be paid for. And this section of karma is ineluctable karma, which one has to go through, and the divine may give you the strength to endure, to go through, but will not lift you out unless it is necessary for the divine work in the cosmos. That is very, very rare. Now that is fate. And the solution of Sri Aurobindo and Mother is that fate, destiny has many layers. And by changing the layers of your consciousness, it is possible to move away from the scene of the operation of the respective destiny or fate. Then comes the problem of pain. It is a very common, unthinking question. Why? God, who has created out of this world in the fullness of bliss, ananda, why did he allow this pain? From where has this pain come? Now, pain, Mother points out, is a relative term. All depends upon your attitude to pain. If pain is taken as a cleansing agent, if pain is taken as a necessary stage through which you have to pass through, it loses its sting. It is also possible, if you have the right attitude, to convert pain into pleasure, pain into bliss. Because on the other side of pain, intense pain, there is bliss. So you have to allow the pain to develop, and it melts into bliss. In the case of many spiritual personalities who know how to meet that problem. And pain, to put it simply, is a result of some imbalance. Nature works in a large order of integration, many wheels within wheels, all maintaining a total balance. Anything in any individual or in any situation that goes counter to this order of balance creates friction, creates struggle, which culminates in pain. Pain is a reminder that something has gone wrong and you have to correct it. Pain will be there, Sri Aurobindo says in this poem, as long as ignorance is there. It is because pain is there that ignorance wakes up. Why? Why do I suffer? What is wrong? And you take corrective steps to reduce the pain, overcome the pain. Pain in that sense is the lever of progress. If there were no pain, no suffering, there would be no progress. So pain is what is described the whip of nature to awaken you to the true state of affairs and the urgent necessity of correcting things within and around you and going ahead. So pain, this is the signature of ignorance. Pain is the hammer of gods to break a dead resistance in the mortal's heart. Pain came first, joy afterwards. So pain is the first stage through which you grow into the state of joy, and you can appreciate joy only because you have had to wade through pain. So pain is a relative term. You give an injection to a child. The child suffers that pain, but the mother of the child watches it because without disturbance, because she knows that that pain is inevitable and is going to help the child to avert many painful possibilities in later life. So pain has to be looked into a broader background and not too locally. Pain and pleasure are dualities like light and shade. And where there is pleasure, there is always pain. And where there is pain, there is always the possibility of pleasure. But both pain and pleasure are transient phenomena. The true nature of life, say those who have experienced life at its depth, in its depths, is delight, bliss. At least mentally, we can accept that prospect, though physically it may be difficult. But the assurance that pain is a transitional phenomenon is very comforting. And on this canto gives a very rational exposition of this problem of fate and pain. And you, as I mentioned before, Sri Aurobindo spent quite some time, considerable number of days, dictating, revising this canto, which you can take fairly as his testament on this problem to humanity. And now let us start, though a few lines, after Savitri has said, I have seen God smile at me in Satyavan. I have seen the eternal in a human face. And she declines to change her word, change her decision. Silent they sat and looked into the eyes of fate. The whole assembly is silent, stunned before the looming fate. Then he says, a silence sealed the irrevocable decree. The word of fate that fell from the heavenly lips of Narad, fixing a doom no power could ever reverse, unless heaven's will itself could change its course. It is heaven's will alone that can change the course of fate. if it chooses. And it is possible to tap the heaven's will to change its course, to turn it in one's favor by sincere prayer. Where prayer is concerned, where the divine is the recipient of the prayer, there is no question of whether one is a sinner or a very great model of virtue. It is the anguish, the sincerity with which the prayer, the appeal is charged, that decides whether the higher will effectuate itself to change that particular stroke of fate. Possible, as you observed in the first canto, I believe first book, heaven's wiser love rejects the mortal's prayer. The mortal does not know that it is good for him to go through that suffering, to go through that ordeal. And though he may pray with all the intensity and impassion, the divine knows that it is good for his progress to go through. And the wiser love, the divine has love for all, and its love is wiser, not the foolish human love, and it rejects the mortal's prayer in certain occasions. Now, unless heaven's will itself could change its course, or so it seemed. Now the poet adds this remark, because it looked like that. It is not really that, because Savitri has the will, he hints to change. So it seems in the normal circumstances that is going to be so. Satyavan is going to die after 12 months, and unless the heavens will changes its course, it will fructify, or so it seemed. At that stage, yet from the silence that reigned in the assembly of the king, rose one voice that questioned changeless destiny. The queen, the mother of Savitri, she rises to question. A will that strove against the immutable will, a mother's heart had heard the fateful speech. Her heart, which had heard the fateful speech of Narad, put out its will to fight against the immutable will of fate. And that speech, what kind of speech it was, that rang like a sanction to the call of death and came like a chill close to life and hope. The life and hope represented in the being of Savitri. That was covered by a chill, as if it was a call of death. Yet, though she struggled, the mother exerted her will, yet hope sank down like an extinguished fire. Truly, her hope sank down. Outwardly, mentally, she could argue, she could say, but inwardly, it sank like an extinguished fire. She felt the leaden, inevitable hand invade the secrecy of her guarded soul. That iron hand, inevitable hand, she felt enter the privacy of her guarded soul and smite with sudden pain its still content. She was not an ordinary woman. She had done her own austerities. She had acquired a poise and a composure. That is why he says still content. And the empire of her hard-won quietude. Quietude had become natural to her. She had won it after hard work. Now that was smashed. A field of mortal grief and nature's law she shared. Normally she was above these things. But now when it concerned her own daughter, she was disturbed and she shared this field of mortal grief and nature's law. She bore the common lot of men. Then, voicing earth's question to the inscrutable power, this is a common question, the common question of the earth being to fate. She gives voice to it, she articulates that voice. The queen now turned to the still immobile seer. Having said that, he is sitting very immobile, unconcerned, impassive. So she turns to him, assailed by the discontent in nature's depths. There is a great commotion. There is a great discontent in her being, in the depths. Partner in the agony of dumb, driven things. And all the misery, all the ignorant cry. Now she begins to share this ignorant cry, the misery, the agony of all the dumb beings who are driven by fate. And passionate like sorrow, questioning heaven, she spoke with great passion. When sorrow is intense, with that intensity, she speaks to Narad. And we will continue it the next session.